The current name of Endeavor's merged WWE and UFC company has been revealed, but it is set to change once again in the future. Roman Reigns will be wrestling at Night of Champions, but he won't be defending his undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Rather, he's going to be challenging with Solo Sikoa for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. The World Heavyweight Championship match is now finalized for Night of Champions. Seth freaking Rollins will face, you'll have to wait out to find more, Asuka missed Bianca Belair on SmackDown last night. Cameron Grimes wins his SmackDown in-ring debut in just a matter of seconds. The Grayson Waller effect is coming to SmackDown next week, and he's set to resume a rivalry he had in NXT. Young Rock is absent from the full schedule over at NBC, with the company having to make a decision on what they're going to do with the program. An update on how contract talks in WWE have changed, and Gunther, he's going to find out who his next challenger for the Intercontinental Championship is Monday night on Raw. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about, for a brief period yesterday, we thought we had finally found out this new name, or the name was going to be, of the WWE and UFC merged company under Endeavor, but not so much. Now, one of the biggest news stories in the history of wrestling broke last month, really, when it was announced that WWE would officially be selling to Endeavor. The deal would see WWE and UFC merge into one new company, with Vince McMahon serving as the executive chairman of the new company. The name of the company had not yet been revealed, with reports that they were still trying to figure that out, with it simply being named NewCo, a short generic term for new company on the filings. However, yesterday, people thought they knew what the company name could be, put a new filing with the SEC yesterday, that being May 12th. The new filing states that the current name of the company is New Whale Inc., W-H-A-L-E, Whale. Now, New Whale Inc.'s board will consist of 11 people, 5 chosen by WWE, with 2 being from their management team. The other 6 members of the board will be picked by Endeavor, including 3 from their management team. Both Ari Emanuel and Vince McMahon will be included on the board. The sale to Endeavor has led to some uncertainty in WWE, with many people expecting staff cutbacks and other changes following the merger. However, there's been an update to this story because it looks like New Whale Inc. isn't going to actually be the name. The SEC filing confirms New Whale Inc. is the current name of the company, but there are plans to change that name to something different. The registrant is currently named New Whale Inc. The registrant plans to change its name to blank following the effective date of this registration statement and completion of transactions described therein. So that's what it's called right now, New Whale Inc., but that's probably not going to be the actual name moving forward. Now, when it comes to this sale, obviously it's one of the biggest stories, as I mentioned, in pro wrestling history, WWE history, and certainly probably the biggest story that's going to happen this year in 2023. And throughout the first half of 2023, headlines in the wrestling world were dominated by talks of a WWE sale. Endeavor would end up as the buyer, and now a new report filed with the SEC is shedding light on the negotiations. More than 60 prospective parties got in touch with WWE's financial advisors before the company selected and entered confidentiality agreements with 20 between February and March. Of those, 9 demonstrated interest through written proposals, which included Endeavor. Discussions between Endeavor and WWE began on February 7 before Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, company president Mark Shapiro, and other members of the company sat down with WWE president Nick Khan, Vince McMahon, and other WWE personnel to discuss the proposal. Endeavor was granted 51% ownership, while WWE held on to the remaining 49%, despite the preliminary proposal of 57% ownership going to Endeavor and 43% of ownership going to WWE. Both parties agreed to the final terms of the deal on April 2nd during night 2 of WrestleMania. Again, it was really, when they announced it the next day, they had literally just agreed on it. Now, when it comes to Vince McMahon, over the last 12 months, controversy doesn't even cover what he's been up to and what he's been dealing with. The amount of money WWE Executive Chairman Vince McMahon continues to pay due to previous lawsuits, or in this particular case, a dropped lawsuit, continues to rise. This time, it's going to cover attorney's fees. Back in January, a class action lawsuit was filed against McMahon by WWE shareholders alleging a breach of fiduciary duty, or put another way, acting against the interest of stockholders. Per an SEC filing this week, McMahon agreed to make a payment to plaintiffs' counsel in the amount of $1.650 million in attorney's fees after it was reported on Thursday that shareholders had dropped the lawsuit against him following a reimbursement payment he made to the company totaling $17.4 million. Since reinstating himself to the board and officially returning to WWE at the beginning of 2023, multiple lawsuits have been filed against the executive chairman, though it wasn't exactly quiet for him during his time away either. McMahon retired last year in the wake of multiple allegations pertaining to misconduct, abuse, and assault, as well as hush money payments that went to multiple former female employees as a result. More recently, and almost immediately following WrestleMania 39 in April, it was announced that WWE had agreed to merge with UFC as part of a purchase by Ari Emanuel's Endeavor Group. The collective value of the merger sat at a staggering $21 billion at the time, and despite McMahon's stated willingness to walk away from the company, Emanuel wanted to keep him on board going forward. So McMahon continues to pay out regarding several lawsuits against him. Now, Roman Reigns, he's going to be wrestling at Night of Champions, and it's not going to be for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. At Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia on May 27, the Bloodline will get another chance to win back the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships. Only it won't be Jey and Jimmy Uso facing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. During Friday Night SmackDown, Paul Heyman announced that the Bloodline pulled some strings in getting themselves another title shot, except this time it'll be Solo Sikoa teaming with the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Main eventing night 1 of WrestleMania 39, the Usos saw their historic reign end. Then on the April 28 edition of SmackDown in a WrestleMania rematch, one dedicated to their tribal chief, they failed again, much to the disappointment of Reigns. Things got heated last night as a result, with him demanding an apology from Jimmy specifically before shoving him in the face. Jey ultimately stepped forward to apologize on their behalf, but it was too little too late. After promising to bring the titles back to the Bloodline, Reigns declared that he'd be dedicating their victory that night to the greatest tag team of all time, not the Usos, but rather the Wild Samoans. While it's certainly noteworthy that Reigns and Sikoa will be battling for the tag team gold, it's even more arguably noteworthy that Zayn, who is of Syrian descent, will be wrestling in Saudi Arabia at all. Due to the relations between Syria and Saudi Arabia, he has not made the trip to the kingdom to perform at a WWE event in nearly a decade. Not only that, but his lifelong best friend and tag team partner Kevin Owens has not worked a WWE event in Saudi Arabia since the Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018. So certainly significant for a variety of reasons there. The World Heavyweight Champion will be crowned at Night of Champions, and we now know what the match is going to be. The stage is officially set for a brand new WWE World Heavyweight Champion to be crowned at Night of Champions. Fresh off his return from injury, the phenomenal AJ Styles punched his ticket to Saudi Arabia with a couple of victories on Friday night, meaning he'll be facing Seth freaking Rollins on May 27. That said, it was no easy task on SmackDown for the two-time WWE Champion. He kicked off the show by winning a triple threat match over a couple of WWE Hall of Famers in Edge and Rey Mysterio, then finished the night by a phenomenal forearm and a clean pinfall victory over the almighty Bobby Lashley. Despite being busted open in his own triple threat match against Austin Theory and Sheamus earlier that night, he was still able to compete against Styles in the main event. Now, the leader of the OC only has Rollins to worry about. Monday night, the Visionary kicked off Raw by defeating both Damian Priest and Shinsuke Nakamura in his own triple threat match. In the main event, he defeated Finn Balor to earn his opportunity at the World Heavyweight Championship at Night of Champions in something of a callback to their SummerSlam 2016 bout that saw Balor emerge as the first ever WWE Universal Champion. But certainly it was a noteworthy night on SmackDown as well, because we saw Asuka make her return to WWE TV. Bianca Belair made history earlier this week by becoming the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion ever, holding the title for over 400 days and counting. While she looked to celebrate that monumental accomplishment in her hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee during Friday's edition of SmackDown, things didn't quite go according to plan. Asuka returned to WWE programming and headed down to the ring before the EST could start the party. She offered Belair her hand, and Belair shook it, only to be met with quite a shock after Asuka spit her signature blue mist in her face. The pair have encountered one another in the squared circle multiple times over the years, with their most recent televised bout seeing Belair successfully defend her aforementioned title against the Empress of Tomorrow during Night 2 of WrestleMania. Despite the series of recent matches between the two competitors, fans on social media are particularly excited about a heel version of Asuka stepping up to Belair, as they believe it could lead to a more riveting rivalry. Although Asuka spraying Belair with blue mist isn't exactly a heel turn, an earlier report from PW Insider Elite suggested that WWE had made an internal pitch to turn Asuka heel as she settles into her new home of the blue brand. both Belair and Asuka were moved from Raw to SmackDown during the recently concluded WWE draft. However, Belair and SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley have yet to exchange titles as was previously expected. Ripley, who defeated Charlotte Flair for the Blue Brand's Women's title at WrestleMania 39, and the rest of the Judgment Day were retained as members of the Red Brand roster during the draft. Cameron Grimes, he made his WWE SmackDown in-ring debut last night, and it didn't last long because he won it in just a matter of seconds. Now, main roster in-ring debuts can be tricky, of course. One could go the way of Karrion Kross and get rolled up in a matter of seconds by Jeff Hardy, or it can play out how Cameron Grimes' match against Baron Corbin did on Friday night. During singles action on SmackDown and following a disparaging promo courtesy of Corbin, Grimes only needed just a few seconds to take care of the former King of the Ring before it was all said and done. Grimes signed with WWE back in 2019, and prior to his NXT call-up, he was the final $1 million champion as well as a former North American champion for the developmental brand. Rumors of his transition to the main roster go back as far as last October, following a surprise cameo from him on Monday Night Raw. Ultimately, it was obviously decided that the draft was the best time to move him on. Speaking of, when the draft did wrap up on the May 1st episode of Raw, Grimes was selected to the Blue Brand with the final overall pick. Corbin took that opportunity to tease the newcomer, labeling him Mr. Irrelevant in reference to being the final selection, or how the final selection of the NFL draft is described. But after suffering an embarrassing defeat in a matter of seconds Friday night, we'll have to wait and see how the free agent responds to the newbie now. Corbin, his last victory on WWE programming came all the way back in November of last year when he defeated Akira Tozawa in just 3.5 minutes. He did recently win a match during the WWE Live Tour of Europe, which was all over social media, but still not looking great for the former United States champion. Grayson Waller, the Grayson Waller effect is coming to SmackDown next week. There was a backstage segment where he approached Adam Pearce and said that we should have the premiere of the Grayson Waller effect next week on SmackDown, and it should feature the winner of the SmackDown semi-final for the World Heavyweight Championship. We now know that's AJ Styles. Certainly, that's quite interesting, of course, because if you weren't an avid watcher of NXT, you could have missed that actually Grayson Waller, he's already feuded with AJ Styles, and having some main roster crossover prior to his official call-up. Waller wrote on Twitter, quote, "See you next week, old mate, hashtag SmackDown." So, however, this time, not only is Waller not in his own element, Styles doesn't run alone. Of course, coming out to celebrate his semi-final victory to close last night's edition of SmackDown, AJ Styles' faction mates Mitch and Mia Yim, Kyle Anderson, and Luke Gallows, collectively called the OC, were there to pump up the winner, and presumably they will be there to slap the taste out of Grayson Waller's mouth if things go sideways next week. Now, when it comes to Grayson Waller and how he's positioned on SmackDown, it's quite interesting, actually, where he's ranked among heels on the brand, it must be said. Ahead of last night's show on Fox, PW Insider Elite put out this list, and we now know how WWE perceives the top stars of the Blue Brand's male roster. Internally, Edge is reportedly listed as the number one babyface on the brand, with top 6 faces being listed in the following order. Quote, Edge, then Bobby Lashley, then AJ Styles, then Sheamus, then Rey Mysterio, then Santos Escobar. As for the heel side, Roman Reigns is obviously at the top. He's the top heel on SmackDown and the company, but the list also features a lot of younger stars, including Grayson Waller. So the heel list is ordered as such. Roman Reigns, then Solo Sikoa, Austin Theory, Karrion Kross, LA Knights, and Grayson Waller. So clearly, they've got some big plans, and they perceive Grayson Waller as a big deal on SmackDown. Now, if you're a fan of Young Rock, it's not looking good for the program. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Young Rock sitcom could be in trouble at NBC. The semi-autobiographical comedy show centering around Johnson and the early years of his life isn't on the full schedule for NBC. Alongside 2 other NBC shows, Young Rock now sits in a bubble between cancellation and renewal. As far as the show's fate on NBC goes, the network has said that a decision has yet to be made. The show has been on the air for 3 seasons on NBC, and it has been airing since 2021. The show's 3rd season came to a close this past February. Young Rock is notably based on real events from Johnson's life, albeit heavily fictionalized for television. Former WWE manager and longtime friend of Johnson, Harvey Whippleman, recently discussed how a memory he has with Johnson was portrayed differently for television. The show has also featured appearances from wrestlers of today as stars of the past. Wrestlers that have made appearances on the show include Becky Lynch, Grayson Waller, and Colt Cabana. Johnson's schedule nowadays seems to be ever growing, and outside of his acting career and having his own sitcom, Johnson also co-owns the XFL. The Alternative Football League, which was started by Vince McMahon, was purchased by Johnson in 2020. A couple of months ago, Johnson made another venture into the realm of sports ownership as he joined on the ongoing bidding for the ownership of the NHL's Ottawa Senators. His place in the bidding would come as part of the larger Nico Sparks group. So, If you're a fan of the program, let me know your thoughts on it possibly being cancelled in the comment section below. Also, this is quite an interesting story coming from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select on how WWE contract negotiations have changed. Now, 2021 saw some major WWE contract expire in Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, but a gigantic part of the roster is signed through 2024 after huge contracts were handed out in 2019. 2022 saw a major regime change, but an implemented negotiation method seemingly stuck around. In many cases, WWE would start to reach out to talent to extend their deals a year and a half before they expired, but Fightful have been told that is already changing. Completely separate of the Adam Cole and Pete Dunne contract disaster in 2021 that saw deals expire without the company actually realizing, Fightful are reporting that they've learned that a change in talent relations and a major turnover internally, in addition to some new faces at the top of the company, had changed the way contracts were negotiated in the last year or so of Vince McMahon's regime before he left. Fightful was told that the newer approach was closer to their expiration date before negotiations began in many cases, a practice that was already in effect as of SummerSlam 2021. That wasn't exclusively the case, but was a big adjustment from WWE looking to lock down talent way ahead of their deals expiring. Under Triple H, it remains to be seen how things will change, but thus far, Fightful haven't heard of many cases where talent were negotiating deals way ahead of time, so it looks so far to be the same method whereby they're waiting much closer to the end of their contracts before beginning negotiations. Whether or not that will lead to any changes in WWE contract policy or people leaving or re-signing, we'll have to wait and see. Finally, Gunther is going to make his Raw debut Monday, despite the fact he's been on Raw several times. But we're also going to find out who his next challenger is going to be for the Intercontinental Championship. As announced by Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser earlier this week on Raw, Gunther will arrive on the red brand next week for the first time since the draft. It's now been confirmed that the first person on Raw, the Raw brand, to step up to the Ring General will be decided via a Battle Royale, the winner of which will receive a future Intercontinental Championship match against Gunther. While WWE is yet to name any of the participants in the Battle Royale, Gunther's Imperium stablemates have seemingly begun a rivalry with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn during their Raw debuts, mocking the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions in a backstage segment that led to an impromptu match. During the segment, Imperium warned Owens and Zayn to prepare for the arrival of Gunther, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of the modern era. We know they're not going to be challenging Gunther though, certainly not at Night of Champions. They're going to be defending their Tag Team Championships against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Gunther last defended his championship against Xavier Woods on the April 21st episode of SmackDown, which marked his first title defense since he won against Drew McIntyre and Sheamus at WrestleMania 39. Having held the Intercontinental Championship for 335 days, the Austrian is less than 80 days away from surpassing Macho Man Randy Savage's 414-day reign of the mid-1980s. Gunther will surpass the Honky Tonk Man's record-setting 454-day reign if he were to hold the title until the end of 2023. So who do you think is going to face Gunther, or certainly win the Battle Royale on Monday? But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe button right hand corner. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.